We're all set?
Yeah, I'll
All
leave it
right.
to you.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here today with you. Tim will be accompanying me on this presentation. Based on I would say my career experience working in work management in over 30 years in maintenance and reliability as a consultant and also as a maintenance manager and maintenance corporate director for a few big organizations like Rio Tinto, Cascades, and Glencore for many years. So going back to the 1990s. So I'm sharing today what I typically find because I do a lot of assessments in organizations across mostly here in Canada and some in the US also. And I try to put like a top 10 of the things we typically found as common mistakes from most of the organizations that we go and do assessments. So let's start. Maybe Tim, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, that's a very old picture. Thank you so much for putting that one up there. Um, yeah, I'm Tim Dutton from Reliability Solutions. I have a variety of different roles here, but my main role is the Director of Product Development. I've been around reliability and rotating equipment just about all my adult life, and used to be a Vibe guy way back, and sort of got into a lot of other stuff. We do teach a little bit at our organization on the practical side of planning and scheduling and work management. So I'm just here to listen to what Michelle has to say. We've worked together previously, quite a long time ago, I think now, Michelle, but we've
Oh
done
yeah,
some stuff
oh yeah.
together. But I'm here to listen to what Michelle's got to say, and maybe add a little color commentary here and there. So
Excellent. And on my part, well, I just introduced myself, so you get that on the screen right there. Uh, just so you know, my most of my experience has been around work management, deployment improvement, and management of those key processes. So let's start with that. Uh, Tell us about Reliability Solutions, Tim.
Oh,
As a
okay, very good. Yeah, so we're basically a reliability company. We started out life very active in the essential skills, the precision maintenance field, doing a lot of skills improvement stuff. But over the last several years now, again, I've been with the company pretty much since it started. But over the last several years, we get into a lot of other things. So we do training. Obviously, that's our bread and butter, all kinds of different types of training, not just craftsmen anymore. We do management training and operator care and condition monitoring and bits and pieces like that. But we're a little bit different than your typical consultant company in the fact that we actually don't just talk about it in classrooms, we actually go out and do it. So we have a whole side of our organization there that's around field services where we're doing QA QC on outages, things like that. We do greenfield sites, ensuring they're going to be reliable when they start. Precision maintenance, you name it, we kind of do it. So I don't want to take up too much time.
Thank you, sir. And I'm working at Laurentide, currently at Laurentide Controls here in Montreal. I've been there for 3 years, and Laurentide is a pretty big company here in the province of Quebec. We have, of course, we take care about control systems, valves, and stuff like that. But we also have an industrial reliability services where we are maybe 50, 60 engineers, technician, just like similar to Road Solutions. We support our clients here in Canada and Quebec, and I'm in the work management department, obviously. So we do supply a lot of professional services for the industry here up north. Okay, let's start. The 10 most common mistakes in maintenance work management. I could have laid out the top 20, top 30, top 40. I wouldn't have enough time. I brought it down to 10. And I'm just so you know, I went to on Chat GPT the other day and I asked the questions. What are the most common mistakes? So 5 out of 10 came out with Chat GPT. So I'm not too far from what the artificial intelligence would bring to your screen. So let's start with that. The first one I see, and people will have a tendency to overlook this one, is not documenting your work management process. This is your recipe. This is your cookbook. And what I have on screen here is just a sample a work management process. But if you don't have something similar to this, there's different format, of course, it's not important, but you need to take the time to lay out how you want your maintenance and production people typically to work around defects, problems, stuff they need to work on, and how it's going to, go on in time with prioritization, planification, the planning, the scheduling, the execution, and the closure of the work order. So this is overlooked from most organizations, and sometimes some do have their work process documented, but it's nobody has seen it. So new employees come in, they don't see it, they're not familiar with it, and then they ask themselves, why is it that our process is not working as it should? Well, start from the beginning. Make sure you have a detailed work process laid out, something similar to this. Um, about this process, I'm not going to go over it, of course, today. But the first input there is the work requests that are generated on a daily basis from your production people and maintenance people, of course. And this is one that is so important that on this first common mistake, I'm asking you the question, or I'm explaining to you, or asking you actually. Um, what is required on a quality work request? So, for example, do people provide you the right information about which machine, which equipment number? What is wrong with this machine? What are the triggers that are making you make that work request? What have you done so far to try and solve the problem or make this machine work as it should? How long has this problem been occurring? Is it something a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, a few months? Something intermittent or something that is on a steady state? How soon should we complete this repair or this work? Talking about the priority of the work here, and what are the typical consequences of not doing this work in the given time frame if we don't act in a timely manner.
One of the things, Michelle, I'd like to emphasize on this is this is the very start of your work management process. And in my experience, the entire efficiency and effectiveness of your entire maintenance and work management process is predicated on this and the quality of this. It's something that I see all the time. We're struggling with planning and scheduling. We start looking, and we're going to get into that here in a minute, but what do your planners actually do? And then you go look at what passes for a notification, pump quit, motor quit, pump won't turn as the notification for work. Well, if that's the poor quality of notification that you're getting, it doesn't matter how good the rest of your system is and your
Sure.
process is, doesn't matter how well laid out that process is, you're going to struggle. So if there was one thing, and I'm so happy you put this at number one, if there's one thing we can do, it's improve this.
Yep. Absolutely. And I'm curious or we're curious actually to ask you a first. We have a few poll questions like that throughout this webinar, and the first one is how would you generally rate the quality of the work request you receive in your CMMS or in your system where you are working at right now? So the question is there, and you should have on screen. I don't have a second screen, so you should have a screen there where you can answer. Erwin, am I okay with that?
Yeah, they're coming in now,
Okay,
Michelle.
I just don't see it. Sorry.
I'm seeing them.
Okay.
So we're at 62% fair, 22% terrible, 22% good, and currently 0% excellent.
Okay. So there's room for improvement. That's the that's the thing here, and just remember these work requests come in your system, and like I like to say to the maintenance planners, when you receive work requests that are not of quality, it becomes your monkey to go and ask questions to the requester, try to understand where, what, when.
Yeah.
The planners are not supposed to do investigation on work requests. They should plan jobs for the next
Yeah.
upcoming weeks. So it's very important to.
A lot of organizations, right, Michelle, will have that, I call it a gatekeeper role. So the notifications come in, and that gatekeeper role is to see if it's valid and push it back.
Yep.
That role is probably one of the most important roles you have in your work management team,
Yep.
because
And you'll
how that is rejected, right? If you just sort of no, reject, do it again, that's the last time that operator is going to write you a notification. You've got to really coach and mentor in that role, right, Michelle?
absolutely, and you'll be happy, Tim, that one of the next slides I do have a topic on that. So the daily work request review, where you need to crack down on the quality, the priority, and make sure that what's coming in is of adequate quality. So we'll get to that in a few slides then. Excellent. Let's move on. Like I said, I don't see the screen. If anybody has questions or raising their hands, I don't see it. So I'll rely on you, Tim, or Erwin to help me with that.
I will. I'll keep an eye on it for you.
All right. Second one, not training and coaching staff and employees on documented process. So you say, okay, you just talked about process, yeah, but once you have your process, just don't put it in your computer on your shared drive and okay, we have processes. You need to communicate those processes. Take the time. It doesn't take much time. Take 1 hour with your operation, with your maintenance guys, and make sure they understand how are they going to navigate through the work order systems. They understand the process. It's put in a work request in is just a first step of many to come for this work request. So once they understand that there's people managing those work requests, becoming work orders, becoming scheduled work orders and plan work orders, you give yourself more chance that they will be participating and navigating through this process. So it's an easy step, but I don't see many organizations spending enough time training. Sometimes they'll do a one-shot training because they have a new process, but when new employees come in the company, they just don't have anything set up to bring these people on board. So we just they take for granted that they understand how the process works. It doesn't work like that. So that's number two for me is taking the time to train and coach your people, staff, and employees on the floor on the work processes. Number three, failure to document and communicate roles and responsibilities. This is all the first three topics are very tied up. So if you do have your processes like you should, then you should extract role and responsibilities. Who should be responsible and accountable to make this process work? Put it down in writing. Do it as a teamwork with your planners, supervisors, operation, maintenance, storeroom, and engineering. And any support people that work with the process should sit down and lay down these roles and responsibilities, and then make sure you just don't put them on a piece of paper, but communicate them to the individuals who will be acting in these different roles. So don't expect people to know what a planner is responsible to do if nobody has ever taken half an hour to explain to them what expected of them in their role. So typically what I see, a planner is giving SAP or Maximo training for a few hours or a few days, and then they just send them the key, and there you go, my friend, you are now maintenance planner at the company XYZ, and you should be able to go, you'll be fine with that. But no, you should make sure that he understands his role versus the supervisor versus the reliability engineers, and they all have key responsibilities. So this is a key component that I don't see in many organizations, and it doesn't take too much time to do, and it's such a valuable tool if you want to make your work management effective. Tim, anything on that?
No, I think that's right. And again, everybody has their role to play in this. And the one thing that we see a lot, and I'm sure you do too as well, Michelle, is that the entire work management process is now the planner's job, and everybody else has roles to play, but of course they don't, and so it all gets dumped on the planner, and then we wonder why our planning and scheduling isn't as good as it should be.
There you go.
You
Very
got to
well
lay
said.
these roles out.
Yes. Yes, communicate them and make sure that people understand that this is what is expected of them. That's as easy as that, but it's very important to do. Number four, insufficient level of work planning. Now, hear me out. Um, there's four different ways of doing maintenance typically. Emergency, where you don't know what you'll be doing, how you'll be doing it, with when you'll be doing it actually, and with whom trade or which people will be doing it. So you're reacting, you're firefighting. That's the worst case scenario. Then you get only scheduled jobs. So you have a nice schedule that's printed out or sent out on Thursday afternoon or Friday morning to the maintenance department and production department, and many work orders are scheduled from Monday to Friday of next week. The problem I see is many of those work orders that are scheduled are not actually planned. They're just scheduled. And there's not much value between an emergency or reactive job and a job that is only scheduled. That's the main thing here. Of course, what we're shooting for are planned and scheduled jobs where what you have on a schedule is normally planned to the detail, where you'll have your parts that are kitted, and you have your work instructions step by step how to do the job. The thing is, if you only do the only schedule and or not enough planned jobs on your schedule, what will happen is that as you see on this diagram, is that your tradesmen become responsible to look out for the information. What exactly do we need to do on this repair? Do we have the spare parts to repair this equipment? Do we have the right tools to do this job? Do we need to coordinate with production to lock out, tag out, to get the equipment clean before we go on the floor and start repairing this equipment? So all this should be taken into consideration way before the tradesmen receive their work order that is scheduled and hopefully been planned before they receive
So,
that work order.
so Michelle, if we haven't planned the job, how do we know how long it's supposed to take? And if we
Yeah.
don't know how long it's supposed to take, how do you schedule it? What
Well, that's
happens, of course, in all organizations is this job is a 2x4. It's two people, 4 hours.
yeah, lumberyard.
And one thing about technicians, and again, I are one. I know exactly how I behave. Um, if you tell me it's a 2x4, it will be a 2x4. If I get it done in 10 minutes, it'll still be a 2x4 because I'm going to go find and have a smoke break somewhere and
Yeah,
do whatever I need to do.
yeah,
So at some point, somewhere in our organization, we need to have sat down and said, this is about how long this needs to take. And from that, you can build the schedule.
yeah. And this is a good point, because having estimated time on work orders that are scheduled, obviously you will have those estimated time. But the lumberyard estimates 2x6, 2x4, 2x8, which is typical actually in most
Yeah.
non-mature organization where we do planning and scheduling. That's the case, and the expectations going back to the roles and responsibilities we talked earlier. A planner's job is to put not only estimated duration on a work order that is being scheduled. He needs to look out for the parts, the coordination with the production, the tools, and everything that's required. That's quite obvious, but it's not as simple. And one of the things I mentioned to the planners that I've been working with, your weekly the excuse me, the deliverable that you need to get out at the end of the week is not only a schedule. It's a schedule that is fully comprised of work order that are planned to the detail. You should not be allowing yourself to put jobs just to fill in the schedule for next week, and the guys will take care of it. That's one of the common mistakes, is we tolerate, or we allow our maintenance department or organizations to work that way, and it makes them very inefficient, and you don't get the benefits of having planning and scheduling in your organization if you don't look out for this.
Now,
So that
one of the things, though, Michelle, depends on the job, right? If you're talking about a very quick, easy, repetitive job that's been done many times before, the level of planning needed is small. Maybe that is a craftsman planned job.
sure.
A lot of places I go, if the job lasts less than an hour or something, then we don't do a formal plan. We don't need a formal plan. If it's, an hour to 4 hours, you get a certain level, and then over 4 hours, you have a more detailed plan. Because it can be
Absolutely.
intimidating, right? Why do I need to write a 15-page job plan on how to change a filter, right?
That is correct. That is correct. And yes, you need to look out for those
Mm-hmm.
specific jobs that are routine in nature and are done on a. But again, uh, there's still a minimal. There's a minimum that the planner needs to look up. We don't want to fall in that looking for production, for parts, for
Yeah,
instruction, doing jobs. So yes, there's a not a minority, but there's a small percentage of jobs who are in that category. But any repair where you required parts and special tools and scaffolding and coordination with the production, you need to
you
be
need to plan it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. We're on the same page with that. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Tim. All right, that's number four. Number five, that's something that is very, 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 very important. Now listen up. Um, Planners should not, and the thing is, I'll go through them, but before I start, planners are in a situation working in a workshop with the supervisors and the trades, and it's difficult for them to say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! I'm not. This is not my job. My job is to plan for next week. So leave me alone. I'll be." No planners does actually will say that to their colleagues and their friends in the shop. It becomes more of a cultural matter in an organization where it's a top to bottom discussion about the roles of a planner and making people understand that if your planner is always on the floor with you or doing stuff in handling reactive work, stuff like that, you will not benefit from a planned schedule, just like we talked on the previous slide. So if you want to have a schedule with planned jobs, you need to leave these planners sometimes to plan. So I have a few bullets here that are quite obvious and that I see or that we see in most organizations in terms of where the planners spend too much time. So being at the service of the supervisor and tradespeople. So the gopher, the help desk of the department. Everyone goes to see that planner for anything about parts, about work history, about anything that they any questions they have, they systematically go in the planner's office. That's something you need to be on the lookout. Reacting to emergencies. Of course, an emergency happens today, right now. People need to react, but the planner should not be anywhere involved in emergencies. I see many planners having a walkie-talkie radio on their desk and listening to what's going on the floor with emergencies. Why are you doing that? You're just being distracted by stuff happening today. Of course, you'll be made aware of it at your daily end of the day meeting, but don't stay connected to emergencies and reactive situation. Becoming a buyer, so spending too much time purchasing stuff for the tradesman, for the supervisor, for anyone else. The planner should be buying stuff for the jobs they'll be planning in the future. That's fine, but starting to be becoming a buyer, the maintenance buyer, I see that many times. So he spends 10, 15 hours a week doing planning for everyone in the department. That's not his job. He's not supposed to do that. Investigate complex problem. You have maintenance engineers, reliability engineers. You have maintenance tradesmen who are probably very well competent to do all those investigations. You don't need to bring your planner into it. Of course, he's been at trades before and he knows about all the stuff. But if you don't leave him alone doing planning, you won't get those plan jobs. So make sure that he's not the one doing the job of a reliability engineer, for example. That's an easy one to catch. So be careful with that. Perform time-consuming clerical activities. Of course, this guy is not working on emergencies this week, so he'll have time. He will have all the time required to take care of all the invoices or anything, any stuff that needs to be paperwork that needs to go through the maintenance department because the planner is not, you know, performing reactive work. He has lots of time. No, he does not have lots of time. He's got a bunch of work orders to plan. Managing contractors by default. I see this very often. Contractors show up in the morning at the gatehouse at the mill. They have a reference name is the name of the planner because 3 weeks ago he passed a PO to get a scaffolding or a contractor to come work during a planned outage, whatever. Who are they calling this guy? So he needs to walk around, get the safety introduction, and it's not supposed to be like that. Someone should leave the planning and take care of the jobs that are going on today on the floor, even if it's contracted work. And the last one, to sum it up, be involved in the current week's activities. The planner is focusing on next week and the next week after that. Supervisors in charge of the current day's activity, current week's activity, and this is where we typically find the reason. The root cause of planners not planning is because they're doing basically some of this stuff that you find on the screen right there.
Couple of comments, Michelle. I've been to facilities where that list there is actually the job description of the planner. Yeah. They actually publish that as this is what a planner does, which is of course crazy. It's insane. A company that both you and I have worked with over the years did a survey a few years ago now on, what do your planners actually do and what have you. The majority of respondents, and they had like 1,300 respondents, I think. The majority of respondents said that planners actually do planning less than 50% of their time.
For sure.
And in fact, there was the biggest sort of lump in the Pareto was those that actually spent about 30% of their time actually planning work.
Yeah.
Right?
Not surprised by that.
Yeah, it's again another big thing we need to improve on.
Totally agree, and there's lots of activities like that have been performed through the years from different organizations or consultants, and it comes up to those numbers typically. So there's something to look for, and you have one planner for 10-15 tradesmen. It's easy to grab him along and making sure that he's not doing his job, and everyone is fine with that until the day a guy like me comes in. I'm paid for a full-blown assessment of the maintenance department and planner's not planning. Wrench time is lousy. The guys only work on the equipment 20-25% of the time because of all those reasons we just talked about. Maybe we have time for another poll here. How much time does your planners in your facilities actually spend planning jobs? Approximately, of course. Again, I don't see a blind
right
screen.
Now we're at 45% is the biggest, and it's rarely requested emergencies take over. We have 7%. It depends. Does putting out fires count as planning? About 35% right now say about 50% of the time juggling too many side requests, and only 6%. That's one respondent says that over 90% they're focused and effective. We need to find out who that respondent is and find out what they're doing.
Could
how
be a
they've
benchmark.
Managed to accomplish that.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Interesting it is. Number 6, not developing standard job plans. Now, a planner will not every job, like Tim mentioned earlier, some smaller jobs, some more routine job. You don't go in that many details planning jobs, but some bigger work will require extensive planning with 20, 50, 30 steps to do the job completely. So why not, once it's been well planned and scheduled and executed and was a very quality job, why not take the time to standardize that job and make it something that will be like ready to go for next time we need to do the same job? Because in most organizations, the jobs you're performing this week on your equipment will come back in the future, whether it's from any failure modes you have on your equipment. There will be some time in the future you will need to go back in your CMMS and check out how much time did we take last time, which part did we use. So let's try and standardize. And some organizations are very good, and the more mature ones. So I've worked mostly with non-mature organizations, I have to be honest with you, but the top 10% of organizations who are mature in planning and scheduling do have substantial numbers of standard jobs. So what that means is if a new planner comes in tomorrow, in this workshop, you will have access to a bunch of jobs that have been planned to the detail, not only by the planners, but with the support of the tradesmen, developing those standards for the next time. Also, new tradesmen are coming in. Those standard jobs are excellent to train a new tradesman that is not familiar with the type of equipment that you are handling in your facility. So someone comes in from a pulp and paper mill and is now going into a metal and mining company, that you don't have the same type of equipment to maintain. So standard job plans will definitely be a good tool to train and introduce your new trades to new equipment. So there's lots of benefits to do this. Most planners tell me they don't have the time to do it, and I just don't get it, because if you have the time to plan the job in detail for once and for all, why not take an extra few minutes and, convert that job into a standard job? There's different SOP, there's different ways of calling this in certain organization, but I mean, you can't go wrong doing this. So the more you'll do, the more you'll benefit in the future. It's all about becoming proactive. That's the bottom line of standard job plans.
One thing there as well is, maybe a lot of our attendees are from a particular facility, from a company that has multiple similar facilities,
Yep.
And changing a condensate pump in a pulp mill is probably the same no matter which pump, or very similar anyway, to whichever facility you happen to be in. And so it seems like a daunting task if I've got to sit here and build all these standard job plans for every piece of equipment I have in my plant. But if you've got sister plants that are doing basically the same thing, and you all kind of piecemeal it out, all of a sudden it's not as daunting as you think, because you can build this big sort of corporate library of standardized job plans, and at least that provides you the template to get you going. As human beings, very few of us are good blank sheet of paper people. But if we've got something I can take and then improve upon, and then feedback in the system, then everybody gets better. So don't forget to take advantage of that. Again, decades ago when I was doing some of this stuff, we didn't have all the luxury of all the electronic tools that we have today. It was all done on paper. So that was very hard to share. Nowadays, we need to take advantage of the technology that we have to share these plans.
Yeah, I agree. I'm from that same generation as you, and I used to work with Polaroids and got Cardex for work orders. So it's a way back when, but today technology makes it a little much more simpler
so
and
much
easier. Oh, you bet. So no excuse there. It's just making a commitment to do it and do it. Thank you, Tim. Very interesting. Number 7, and this one is truly an important one that many organizations do have some struggles getting the feedback from tradespeople at the end of the work. You get a work order, schedule executed, 2 guys, 8 hours, a big job, and it finishes it's 2 guys, 20 hours. And what you get on the work order at the end is, okay, job done. So, whoa. So time out. What happened? It was an 8-hour job. We went to 16, 20 hours. What happened? We need some detail. Please document. Help us help you in the future. So that's where that improvement loop comes from. And Doc Palmer, which probably most of you are familiar with, he has a nice book there on maintenance planning and scheduling, which I recommend to you. It's for me, it's a Bible for the work management. A lot of good stuff there. And Doc says every job is new if you don't learn from our previous experience. So the learning part is the feedback coming from the tradesman at the end of the job. Of course, you need to read it. You need to take action on those comments, because the feedback will stop coming in. Those tradesmen are very picky on if they provide you good information, you don't act on it, they will just stop. But the first thing is, please bring me information, bring me some feedback, and I will go and talk to you once in a while to make sure that we develop the next planned jobs in much more details based on our current or past experience doing these jobs. So there's so much benefit doing this. So it becomes a teamwork between the trades and the planner. And once this loop is not turning, Then you have a planner working in an office. You got tradesmen walking on the floor. They receive work orders and they just, okay, that's what we'll do, I guess. And we told them last time that we should need all those extra tools or extra parts. He does not listen. He does not read our comments. You need to make this to have this as a successful teamwork. It starts with the feedback coming from the execution of planned jobs.
And
Tim,
I'll
I'm sure you
echo
have,
that.
yep.
Yeah, I'll echo that, Michelle. The most important part of that is you've got to do something with that feedback and be seen to be doing something with the feedback. Because the very second the craftsman thinks nobody's looking or nobody's bothering, that's when I stop doing the work. Our company, we talk about this thing called precision maintenance, and part of precision maintenance is documenting the performance improvements on the machine, what was done, did we check softfoot, and all of these steps. And we often get a lot of pushback on those steps because it's 8 pages or something like that, but it details everything that should be done, right? And what happens is you give that to the typical craftsman and they say, I've been doing this all my life, I ain't going to use that. And away they go. And the reason they're doing that, there's a psychological reason they're doing that. And it's not because they're bad people or things like that. It's because we are taking away what we call autonomy. Nobody likes to be told what to do, right? So when I have a detailed step-by-step procedure for a job I've done 30 times already, it's subconsciously, not even consciously, but subconsciously in our heads, we're thinking, well, they don't know what they're doing, I do. And so we tend to ignore it, and the procedure, the job plan, or whatever gets lost and or put in the toolbox, right?
Yep.
So here's a little psychological trick for you, a little tip. Somewhere we have to have written a detailed job plan, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, do this, do this, do this, do this. That has to exist somewhere. But the working document, the one you hand off to the tradesperson, maybe is phrased a little bit different. And the whole thing, you go to Jeopardy, Alex Trebek, a great Canadian, by the way. Alex Trebek, phrase your answer in the form of a question. So instead of saying, go out, check the bearing fit, what was the bearing fit? Instead of saying, check soft foot, check box, what was the soft foot? When you ask a question, psychologically in our heads, oh, they're asking me a question, I'll answer that. They're not telling me what to do. You kind of are, but psychologically, as a human, we don't see it as being told what to do. And we are much, much more likely to follow that process and answer that question. Just a little psych trip from way back when.
That's very good. That's very good, Tim. I like that. I like that very much. Thanks. Number 8, putting too much emphasis on key performance indicators rather than on achieving results. Now, be careful. I'm not saying we don't need in KPIs or key performance indicators. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to focus. We should not focus on trying to obtain better results with our KPIs. We should be focusing on obtaining better results on the floor. So, and my personal experience as a corporate manager, like most of you are probably in big organizations. So the corporate, and I was a corporate guy, passing along some procedures to maintenance managers. So we were telling them, you need to bring your scheduling compliance to that level and your PM compliance and this and that. And some mills will tend to focus, how can we improve that KPI? So instead of trying to see why are we not scheduling to the right level or why are we not planning to the right level, they're trying to find ways to make the KPIs improve. So, and this will trigger up all the way to the corporate, the big cheese there in the corporate office, looking at KPIs. Okay, now this mill is performing and this mill is not. As a recent recent corporate role for me, I would have some KPIs that would show splendid results. The KPIs I'm talking about here, but when we talked and we looked at what's going on the floor, talking with trades or planners and supervisors, I mean it was hell. I mean things were not going as the KPIs were reflecting. So there was an issue there. So when you start talking and digging, you understand that guys and girls working in this workshop or this mill are trying they're working their butt to try to improve the KPIs. It's not the KPIs we want to improve. We want to improve the way tradesmen are efficient on the floor. Talk about wrench time. Call it what you want. We want to improve how effective we are doing repairs and minimizing the downtime of the equipment. And by doing a great job, KPIs will eventually demonstrate some results. So that's what I'm talking about there. Not talking about fudging numbers necessarily, but having the focus on the floor where things are happening instead of KPIs.
Yeah, performance indicators of any type will drive the behavior, right? And so you've got to be very careful and selective when doing the right ones. Yes, you can go to SMRP and you can go to their website and they will give you a metric bucket full of all kinds of different KPIs. And you can have these are all the planning KPIs that we're supposed to have. Remember, we're trying to drive behavior. Again, going back to human psychology, if you want me to put effort into doing something different or making an improvement, I'm a very selfish person. I need to see what's in it for me, right? So what that means is that if I go out and put effort into maybe filling out the job plan and the comments properly, I need to see a needle move somewhere that shows the results of my effort. It's why we have scores in sports games. It's a human psychological need. Well, if the KPIs are built so that I can't really affect them, right? If I can't see how the work that I do here affects the big KPI, then I'm less likely to put that effort in the long term. So you've got to have different levels. You have strategic levels, overall planning effectiveness and things like that. But down in the mud, the blood, and the beer, down at the bottom level, you also need KPIs, completed documentation, job plan performance, things like that at the lower levels as well. And that happens across not just planning and scheduling, but all of the performance indicators for your facilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. Very, very well said. Number 9, poor prioritization of work orders. This is going back to that third or second slide I had before with the work request, the prioritization of the request. So we're going back there. So basically, this is your, like Tim mentioned, your gatekeeper, or this is where everything should come in every day, where you will review and make sure that what goes in is clearly defined and prioritize. The priority set is the right priority. So basically, one of the key mistakes we have is people trying to have everything prioritized for today or tomorrow or this week, because they don't understand. And coming back to that first slide, if you don't understand how this process works as an operator or production supervisor, I will have a tendency to put everything emergency or very a scheduled break, something to do this week, because they don't understand that big black box called a CMMS, where their work request will just end up and be there for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, etc. And then they just say the maintenance is not, the Winsa system is not, they don't know what they're doing. They ask us for work requests and we don't hear about it and it sits there. So let's put in emergency. So there's a gatekeeper. So there's a daily meeting where we review everything, and we also want to make sure that we don't have 15 different priorities. I've worked with some clients or some mills where they would have 5, 10, 15, up to 16 priorities I've seen. So it becomes so confusing for people, and they just lose confidence that if they put a work request, let's say for priority 10 is 6 to 8 months. I mean, if you do this, I strongly reconsider this process. You should work with emergency, which something we will do right now. We will stop doing what we're doing and we'll address the situation. A scheduled break is something that needs to be done this week. It cannot wait till next week. We cannot plan and schedule that job. It's too important. There's too many risks attached to this problem. And the number 3 priority, which of course you can go down to 4 and 5. There's different ways to do it, but don't go down to 15. And make sure that the number 3 priority is the one that will be in the planner's backlog, and you will work with production and making sure that we will prioritize based on risk, based on operational context, which jobs need to be scheduled and planned in the the most what's the word, effective way, so that we don't lose production or we don't create bigger problems than we already have with those problems that were identified. And making sure that It's clear that anything that is put in as an emergency is clearly an emergency, because you don't have the we don't have the luxury of challenging an emergency when it's sent to maintenance. You should not anyway. Starting to filter your emergency. An emergency is a 911 call typically, where we will send someone from maintenance to take care of a big problem or a risk situation. So make sure that people understand your priorities and that they are clear, and there's not too many of them where people get confused and they will just go back to number one or number two because they don't understand and don't have confidence in your priority system. So just consider this. Prioritization is the key component for an efficient maintenance department. If everything is an emergency or schedule break, you don't need a planner. You just need a bunch of firefighters to take care of those
Yeah.
problems every day, every week.
Yeah, I think the key word you mentioned there, Michelle, is risk, right? What we do in maintenance reliability is really just an exercise in risk management. So your prioritization process should really look at risk. And there's a mathematical definition of risk. It's probability of something going bad multiplied by its consequence. And if you base your system based on that, it takes a lot of the emotion out of it, because you can document what the probability of failure is. Your VIBE people, your condition monitoring will tell you where you are on that curve. You can figure out what the consequences are. Remember, there'll be process production consequences, environmental safety, and also a maintenance consequence as well, a maintenance cost. But you can figure those numbers out and then use that to prioritize. The important thing, it goes all the way back to your first slide, is we need to document how we're going to figure this out and teach everybody to understand this is how we do it, right? And I think that's really important, because otherwise everybody's off with their own priorities, and it's the wild wild west.
Yeah, not to mention emotional priorities, which are
Yeah.
something I don't want to say it's production people, but most of the time production, because we maintenance people have not spent enough time training them or making them understand how it works. So emotions will take over. I cannot wait 6 months to get this job done. So they'll just put the hammer on the table and they want this today or they want this tomorrow, or they'll talk to the mill manager. I mean, I've been through this, so I'm sure you've been through this, most of
Mm-hmm.
you folks there. The emotions take over common sense. So just keep that in mind. So it's a very important component of your work management process is your priority and your daily work request review meeting or filter or call it what you want, where you will make sure that everything that comes in has been filtered out, is clear, and is well prioritized. Thank you, Tim. Number 10. Now, this one will probably confuse some of you. Tolerate pirates who resist and hinder process deployment. What are pirates? Well, we all know pirates look like. They look like this, and they're probably not dressed like that in your organization. They're dressed with your company uniforms, and they look just like normal people. But underneath that uniform, they're pirates. What they want is they're key people in your organization. They could be supervisors, they could be planners, they could be tradesmen, they could be anyone, any role in your organization. But some individuals typically will say yes, yes, yes. Oh, yeah, this is a good idea. We will work this process out. We'll do the planning, or we'll make sure that we work this way. And as soon as you turn your back around, they just go back to doing things their own way, and they don't care what improvement you're trying to, or whatever process you want to deploy. And as long as these pirates will be there and you'll be allowing them to do their pirate job, your process will not take off. You'll spend months trying to understand why it's not working. Why are people still reacting? Why are people not working within this? Why are they not showing at the daily or weekly meeting? Because some of those people are leaders in your organizations, but they're also pirates. So they're on board, they're on the boat with you, but they're not trying to bring the boat the same place you want to go. So I've unfortunately had some of them in my previous life and previous jobs, and sometimes we say, we'll train him, we'll coach him. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So time will show you that you need to put these pirates or individuals on a different boat, a different seat, or different location in your mill. But if you want your process to deliver and have fun at work, seeing improvements, you need to identify the one or two pirates that are maybe preventing you from having a top of the line process and people working in the proactive organization. I don't know if people. I don't have a poll on this, but I'd be curious to see if any of you feel like any similarities within some of your colleagues working with you in your facilities. That's the
So,
last. Yes.
Michelle, a couple of things on the pirate thing. Remember, as organizations, over the many decades, we have rewarded those knights in shining armor that ride in and fix the breakdown for us. We give them fish dinners. We take them to dinner. We have parties to celebrate the crash of 52 and how we all survived it. So we have decades of reinforcement of pirate behavior. Be patient, but stay the course to try to dispel that type of behavior. We have a question from Russell Smith. Earlier, it was stated that we need a person to review work orders written for validity.
Yep.
Now it's said we can't validate an emergency work. If I understand correctly, I disagree. Validate all work orders written. Russell, do you want to put your mic on and explain a little bit for us? I think we got time.
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I might take something out of context, but I totally agreed when you said 10 minutes ago that you need a person to validate these work orders and not to talk to the technician that wrote it and just disregard him because he will never write a work order. But I heard you saying something about emergency work orders that you couldn't necessarily validate them. You just had to go with it, and you get called in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you get there, you don't even have parts. It's work that needs to go on because nobody's done. So I think back to every work order needs to be validated.
Yeah, I think the point, Russell, is the planner probably shouldn't be the person to do that validation. There needs to be a buffer between the planner and the craftsman. And again, if it's emergency, then it just has to go through that buffer quickly. The problem if you have your planner validating the work all the time, they're going to get dragged away from stuff they need to be doing. Does that make sense?
Say that last part one more time.
If the craftsmen are going straight to the planner to validate, or the planner's going straight to a craftsman to validate the work order, then that's dragging them away from proper planning. And again, it's never black and white. There's always gray in there, but we want to encourage as much as possible, even for emergency work and break-in work, we need to encourage to go through the process.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
I understand.
And
Yeah,
if I may,
and I was going to say it, like you said, not always black and white. There's some gray. Go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, and for the emergency, just maybe I was not clear enough, but just something to remind you about. All work requests should be filtered out every day at the same time, same place. You should have a 1 or twice a day meeting where you review new work requests, including scheduled breaks, because they're not emergencies. Emergencies, we can't afford to say, oh, we'll look at it later at the meeting this afternoon. So of course, if you have emergencies that are big jobs in nature and it's a bit fishy, the type of priority, that because the emotions sometimes pick up, or people are not well trained on the different priorities, someone will raise a flag. Hey, this is not an emergency job, boss. It can wait till next week. So those will come out. But the message here is that we can't afford to review and authorize emergencies if they are emergencies. We need to react right away. So that's the right message we need to send to our production colleagues typically, that if you have an emergency, we'll take care of it right now. Of course, if you are always stretching it and it's not an emergency, we'll need to sit down and talk about your people not understanding the process. But So this is something to be careful with the emergency work order.
Yes, so you're saying it comes down to common sense.
Imagine that, huh? Imagine that.
Yep. Any more question? Oh yeah, we do have a final poll. We have a few minutes left. How would you describe the maturity, people, of your current maintenance work management process? So what we've talked about in the past hour or so, how do you feel you are with the best practices? So we have some questions on the screen there. And I don't see Tim. I don't see
Yeah,
Mr.
so we've
Blythe.
got 8 responses so far up to now, and 62% say we have a process, but it's not always followed. 25% say everyone does things a bit differently, and nobody has said they don't have a process. So everybody's got the process, we're just not using them.
Okay, good.
We have one respondent who's said we have clear document process and follow it consistently.
Excellent.
I think I'm not going to say in front of the whole team, but knowing some of the companies reflected here, I know who that one is. And they have to follow the process because bad things are going to happen if they don't. But that's another story.
That's another story. Absolutely. All right. So that's the end.